The arena was already electric long before the first punch was thrown, the kind of charged atmosphere that only boxing can produce when two undefeated fighters step into the ring with everything on the line. This wasn't just another main event. It was a collision of rising dominance, a moment where reputations would either be solidified or shattered. 12 rounds stood between two warriors in a shot at undeniable greatness. On one side stood David Morrell, the slick, hard-hitting southpaw, carrying the weight of his WBA light heavyweight world title with quiet confidence. On the other side, a force of nature known as the Mexican monster, David Benavidez, already a two-time world champion and now hunting for even more glory. From the very beginning, you could feel that this fight wasn't going to be slow or tactical in the traditional sense. There was too much pride, too much power, and too much hunger in both men. Morrell entered sharp, composed, using his footwork to control distance, gliding across the canvas with calm that suggested he believed this was just another night at the office. But Benavidez wasn't there to admire technique. He was there to break it down. The opening exchanges told the story immediately. Morrell worked behind his defense, high guard tight, reading Benavidez carefully. But Benavidez wasted no time in applying pressure, digging into the body early, testing the foundation of Morrell's composure. It wasn't reckless aggression. It was calculated violence. Every step forward carried intent. Every punch had purpose. Morrell's defense showed flashes of brilliance. He absorbed, rolled, and countered, showing why he was undefeated and why many believed he had the tools to neutralize someone as relentless as Benavidez. But there was something different about Benavidez at night. He wasn't just throwing punches. He was building a rhythm, a steady escalation of intensity designed to overwhelm. As the rounds unfolded, the fight began to find its identity. It wasn't a chess match. It was a war of layers. Morrell would land sharp counters, his right hook snapping back with authority, his jab creating openings that momentarily halted Benavidez's advance. But every time Morrell created space, Benavidez closed it. Every time Morrell answered, Benavidez responded with volume. Then came the exchanges that defined the fight. In the corner, under the bright lights, both men stood their ground and traded. A crushing left hand from Morrell drew a roar from the crowd, a reminder that he wasn't just surviving, he was dangerous. But Benavidez didn't back away. He stepped into the fire, returning combinations that echoed through the arena. This was no longer about strategy. This was about will. There's a certain moment in elite fights where the tone shifts, where one fighter begins to impose not just physical dominance but psychological pressure. That moment began to emerge as Benavidez started sitting down on his punches more, digging deep into the body, ripping hooks and uppercuts that slowly chipped away at Morrell's resilience. You could see it, not in a dramatic collapse, but in subtle changes. A step slower, a guard that didn't quite recover in time, a hesitation that hadn't been there before. Still, Morrell refused to fade. He fired back with combinations, his counters sharp and meaningful, reminding everyone watching that he wasn't just there to endure punishment. He was still in the fight, still dangerous, still capable of turning everything around with a single moment. And for a time, it worked. He landed clean, caught Benavidez coming in, and forced him to reset. But Benavidez didn't stay reset for long. Pressure became the defining weapon of the night. Not just forward movement, but intelligent pressure, angles, positioning, relentless output. Benavidez began targeting the body with increasing frequency, doubling up punches, forcing Morrell to absorb damage in ways that would add up round after round. It wasn't just about scoring. It was about breaking something deeper. By the middle rounds, the difference in volume was becoming undeniable. Morrell was still landing, still showing flashes of brilliance, but Benavidez was dictating the pace. He was throwing more, landing more, and controlling the tempo of the fight. The statistics told one story, but the visual told another. This was a man imposing his will. And yet, the fight never lost its tension. Morrell had moments where he surged back, moments where his combinations snapped with urgency, where it looked like he might swing the momentum back in his favor. His counters remained sharp, his timing dangerous, and every exchange carried the possibility of something dramatic. But with every surge from Morrell came a stronger response from Benavidez. Uppercuts began to find their mark more frequently, slicing through Morrell's guard. Hooks to the body echoed louder, visibly taking a toll. The pressure wasn't just physical anymore. It was suffocating. Morrell was being forced into exchanges he didn't always want, into positions where defense became survival rather than strategy. Still, he stood. That's what made this fight special. It wasn't one-sided domination. It was resistance. It was resilience. Morrell took shots that would have ended many fights, yet he continued to fire back, to engage, to prove that he belonged at this level. As the championship rounds approached, the stakes became even clearer. For Morrell, it was now about urgency. For Benavidez, it was about finishing strong, about leaving no doubt. And then came the moment that shifted everything further. A clean, decisive shot sent Morrell to the canvas. It wasn't just the impact, it was the timing. Late in the fight, when fatigue had already set in, when damage had already accumulated, the referee stepped in, counting, the crowd rising in anticipation. Morrell got up, showing heart, showing grit, but the message had been delivered. This was Benavidez's fight. From that point forward, Benavidez fought with a renewed intensity. He wasn't reckless, but he was relentless. Every punch carried authority. Every exchange leaned in his favor. Morrell, to his credit, continued to fight back, landing counters, refusing to simply fold. But the difference was clear now. Damage had been done. By the final bell, both fighters had given everything. Their faces told the story, swelling, cuts, exhaustion. This wasn't a clean, technical bout. This was a battle, a fight where respect is earned through suffering as much as through skill. When the judges' scorecards were read, there was no real suspense left. The decision was unanimous. The scores reflected what the fight had shown. Competitive, yes, but clearly controlled by one man, David Benavidez. With that victory, he didn't just win a fight. He unified titles, extended his undefeated record, and made a statement to the entire light heavyweight division. This wasn't just about beating Morrell. It was about announcing himself as a dominant force at 175 pounds. But beyond the belts and the records, what truly stood out was the way the fight unfolded. The way two undefeated fighters pushed each other, tested each other, and ultimately forged something deeper than just a result. Respect, because that's what fights like this create. Not just winners and losers, but moments that define careers. Moments that remind everyone why boxing still holds a unique place in the world of sports. And as the crowd slowly settled, as the lights dimmed and the noise faded, one thing remained clear. This wasn't the end of a story. It was the beginning of something bigger. So what do you think? Does his victory cement Benavidez as the most dangerous force in the light heavyweight division right now? Or does Morrell's toughness prove he'll come back even stronger? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more deep dives into the biggest fights in boxing.